Okay, everybody. So a few things happened over the last day or two, and I guess I'm going to tell you guys my plan and um, how I need to look at things from a different perspective, I guess, and how I need to take responsibility for my own problems and how I'm going to be working on that. So basically, I was in a relationship and we just broke up maybe a week ago, and I talked to this person yesterday, and they told me that basically they were feeling the same way I was, that they felt um, not cared about and misunderstood. And so now I am trying to look at my part in this, in the relationship, and things that I could have done or changed and how I could have approached them differently. I'm going to try to this is going to be hard for me because I mean it's kind of weird. I've been reading these books and stuff on how to, approach these issues in myself, and I'm trying to go to counseling now, and I'm taking medication to, to work on this stuff. So I mean I'm putting it out there. So it's kind of hardcore, but yeah, I mean, like I made a video about how, there was a lot of problems and how I felt like I was ignored and how I put a lot of my money into this whole situation and stuff like that. But there's things that I did too. And the things that I didn't like that I could have changed, and I should have said something. And there could have been more communication in the whole situation. I should have about spending my money. I should have gone into more detail about how I needed more help. I wanted more help. I could have said no. I could have said no. I'm not going to put all my money into this. There's and that's partly, the whole feeling ignored thing. I could have, if he was going to ignore me, I could have found other resources, other people to talk to feel like I was being listened to. There's all kinds of things like that I'm going to look at. And what's really going to be freaky is like for the feeling like I'm not listened to. I there's going to have to be like a deep down version of why I felt that way. Why, when he was busy on the internet and not paying attention to me, why it triggered me and why I would get upset about it. So there's going to be a lot of that going on. And I'm not really looking forward to it, but I know it's what I need to do because no matter what, whether I end up with him again or somebody else, I need to look at my own internal issues before I try to do anything. And I think that's partly why I felt like I wasn't doing anything for myself, because I literally wasn't looking inward, and I wasn't doing anything for myself. So, I mean, there's a lot of yeah, there's a lot that happens, I think, in relationships in general, where there's not enough communication and people aren't willing to look inward at their own subconscious stuff that they've been programmed to think and you know uh, do and feel from the people around them and from society. For example, I grew up around women who, um, I stayed in a lot of women's shelters as a kid, and homeless shelters, and I was around a lot of women who had been abused. And I'm not saying these women weren't abused, but a lot of them had a mindset after being abused that kind of was biased towards men, and that has definitely been something that has probably affected my relationships, and I am going to look at that for sure. And I think that when somebody is in a relationship, things like that can affect how they respond to other people and the people that they're with. And I mean, and that's why communication is a huge thing. And, you know, looking at what triggers you, because oh gosh, I'm jumping around all over the place. Like I'm talking about being biased about men's situations because I was around women who had been abused, and I was around men who were abusive as a child. Um, sorry, this is kind of hard for me to talk about, so I'm literally having to like clear my throat. But it it made me I have an operating system or a belief system based on that. So it's sometimes it can be really hard for me to see a man's side of a situation, which is no excuse. It's really not. But I'm giving my background, okay? So I can try to explain this. Anyway, um and so when my ex called me the other day and said that he felt the same way, I had to step back and realize, okay, maybe there is some things that I mean, and I already was thinking this, but I need to look at them. There's some things that I need to look at. So that's what I'm doing. And and you know, I just, you know, I would like it to I don't even want to say anything about that. I do want it to go both ways, I guess, is what I'm trying to say, is, you know, um and you know what's weird, you can try to communicate with people, and they can you can think that what you're saying makes sense, but to them, when you say something, okay, every word has a feeling behind it. But the feeling that somebody else has could be different than what you have. So if I'm trying to tell you something and you have a different feeling about those words that are coming out of my mouth than I do, then we're just not going to understand each other. And it has to be fully expressed as much as it possibly can. And so, or and also, I each person has to try to fully understand that person's words and their feelings behind those words. And that's I think that's something that was missing in on both sides in our relationship. And so I'm that's another thing I'm going to work on. I'm going to work on you know trying to fully understand other people. And I mean, even if they're not trying to fully understand me, the way to get somebody to fully understand you is to try to understand them. So I'm going to work on my side of things as hard as I possibly can. Um, I'm going to just really try to really dig deep and look at, you know, why I do the things I do, why I'm triggered by things. Um, I already know why I'm biased towards men or some men's situations. And um, I'm going to look at that. It was really weird. Um, Shortly after I spoke with my ex yesterday, somebody else called me, and this person told me that they are, and it was weird because they kind of helped me realize, okay, maybe I'm being biased about this whole situation. But they told me how they were going to school and they had a 4.0 GPA, and that, you know, things were hard. And they, you know, I was like, oh, okay, you know, that's fucking shitty, dude, you know. And then they went on to tell me how they were homeless and they were literally eating out of a dumpster and living in a shack outside of Lowe's. And that, like, that, you know, that hit me. I was like, wow, you know, maybe that's kind of how my ex feels. You know, he's in a shitty place, and you know, maybe that's, he just feels like, you know, everyone's against him. And at the same time, this guy, I'm pretty sure, had, not my ex, this other person that's homeless, um they have a drug problem, I'm pretty sure, and they are not willing to look at it. And I'm sure it's affecting why people are responding to this person the way they are. So I guess what I'm trying to say, I'm saying sometimes that there are other things that person needs to look at besides how society is treating them. Sometimes there's things internally that people are not looking at in themselves, and that's why I'm going to try to do that myself. So, yeah. I hope that makes sense. It helped me look at things from my ex-boyfriend's situation, and in my own situation, how I should look at myself internally, and how maybe my ex should, and how this person I was talking to should, and how all around it's, there's a much bigger picture than we realize, because we have these bias, we have these systems that we've been taught throughout our lives to follow, and from our parents and society in general. And I mean, I could feel that whoever's listening to this is understanding me, but because of how you've been taught to think about things, you might not. You might be getting a completely different message from me. And, it's just, it trips me out, how people, I guess the key to everything is looking at yourself internally and doing the best you can to fix your own problems, so that when you're not understanding something or being triggered by something, or your system that you have set up in your mind is blocking you from understanding, you can look at that and you can change that. And I guess that's what I've been trying to say the whole video. And I hope that makes sense. But yeah, that's what I'm going to be doing for the next rest of my life. Anyway, thanks for listening.